2 p.m.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. This is the CASAS National News and Updates webinar. It's April 14th, and we have a great lineup of presentations to share with you today. We are delighted to welcome back Karen Cook and some of her colleagues from Austin Community College, and they are going to talk to us about their remote assessment. And we have a number of other exciting topics. Our presenters today include two members of our CASAS staff, Dawn Montgomery, the online implementation specialist at CASAS, and Jane Iguez, Vice President of Product Development. I think I neglected to say that I'm Linda Taylor, the Vice President of Assessment Development, and I'll also be presenting. And then we have Karen Cook and Sophia Reynolds doing the majority of the presentation for Austin Community College. So a little bit of housekeeping to begin with. Your phones and computers are automatically muted. If you have questions about the content of the presentation, please post them in the Q&A and not in the chat box. We do have a large attendance, and so CASAS staff will try to answer whatever they can during the webinar, but if they can't get to questions, they will answer them later. If you have technical difficulties at any time about Zoom, please enter those in the chat box. We are recording the webinar, and the PowerPoint and other resources will be posted on the CASAS website, and we'll be putting that link in our chat box. So a couple more webinar tips. Please check your audio settings. Make sure if you look on your toolbar, that's on the bottom left. The chat, as I mentioned, is only for technical issues. And if you want to reach all the panelists, you can select them to ask a question. We will not be using the raise hand feature. And then the Q&A, as we were just saying, is for questions about the presentation and any questions for the presenters. So this is what the Q&A box looks like. And you can type your questions right into the box there. And then if there are any questions that are new to us, we will look through and add them to our FAQs. So please do feel free to enter questions at any time during the session. We have CASAS staff on hand to respond to them. So let's look a little more closely at the webinar topics for today. Just to be clear that this is an informational session and not a training per se. For those of you who've been here before, you might have heard this, but we're going to give you a little refresher about our CASAS test series and their status. We're going to show you about collecting demographics for research studies, if you can help us with that. Then we'll have the promising practice presentation from Austin Community College, which is on building and improving remote assessment process for your adult education program. We'll have an update about eTests. We're going to share about our workforce skills certification system, which if you're not familiar with it, we think that's something that you may be very interested in and want to give you an idea of what that could be, how it could be used in your program. We're going to give our remote testing update and also share some other CASAS news. So our first topic, our new and existing CASAS test series. So for ABE, we have the goals series, reading goals for ABE and ASE, approved through 2025. Our math goals, the math goals series is not new itself, but the date through which it is approved has been extended through 2023. For ESL, we have the Life and Work Reading 80 series. We have our beginning literacy forms 27 and 28. And if you are permitted to use them, we have Reading for Language Arts, which is at the high school level, forms 5, 13, and 14. And then listening, the 980 series. These, at the end of last year, were extended and now can be used through February of 2023, most likely through June of 2023. And that is the same with all of the other NRS-approved ESL tests. So just to be clear about the status of these tests, the Reading Goals series continues through 2025, no change there, and also for the math goals. But for ESL, we do have a new series that we have final forms ready, but we need your help to field test them and do research studies on them. So they are both pending. The reading and the listening goals are pending because until we have enough data to send in our submission to the NRS, we cannot do that. So we do need your help there. These new series, all of these series are aligned to the College and Career Readiness and the NRS objectives, and for ESL to the English Language Proficiency Standards. The listening and reading series, just to give you a little bit more insight into those, they will eventually replace the current Life and Work series. One new feature is that instead of 4 levels for reading and 3 for listening, they'll both have 5 skill levels. And we believe that will help in reducing the amount of retesting that you'll have to do, where students might be placed into the wrong level and not get an accurate score. Again, they are aligned to these standards and designed to measure the College and Career Readiness standards as well. So we do need your help. One thing we need your help with is if you are willing to enter demographics. We know that many of you already do, and we are able to use them, and we thank you very much for that. If it's already required for your program, as it is in some states, including California. But in other states where you enter your demographics into your local database system, we are asking if you might do us a favor of additionally adding these 4 most essential data elements into the CASAS software, so that we can then use results that we collect during testing. You may have noticed that there are a few extra unscored items that are inserted into the tests, and these are field test questions. And that's how we are able to collect a very good sample across the country. But unless we have this data, we cannot use that. So I'm going to ask Karen to please show a little biteable that explains about this demographics right now. So another way that we do need your help is if you can help with field testing these final form studies for listening and reading for ESL. So we need both eTests and paper. It could also include, as well as ESL students, any ABE students that you serve whose first language is not English. This is ongoing now. We're trying to collect this data so we can submit to the NRS, as I mentioned. And for that, we need you to take the locator or appraisal in one or two of the level tests. That is, your students would take them. And we have gift cards for them, $5 for each test that they complete. It's a way for them to practice. It's a way for you to see the new tests if you want to get a peek. We also will give agencies who participate complimentary web testing units. So we have FAQs about the field testing process. And if you are able to help us with this, please do contact fieldtesting@casas.org. Thank you for that. Now I'm going to ask Karen Cook to come on and for just a minute. Karen from Austin Community College. And we also have Jean Friedman with us today. If you could just come on the video for a second and introduce yourselves.
I'll go first. I'm Karen Cook. I'm the assessment supervisor for Austin Community College, and I'm looking forward to sharing you some practices that we've worked on and have been improving throughout the year.
And hi, I'm Jean Friedman. I work with Karen as a coordinator of assessment and have helped develop and manage some of our processes that we're going to share with you today.
Great, thanks Karen and Jean. And now they did a pre-recorded presentation, and that was Karen and Sophia Reynolds from Austin Community College. So first we're going to show you that, and then they're going to be available for questions.
Hello, I'm Karen Cook, the Adult Education Supervisor for Austin Community College, and I'm here with Sophie Reynolds, the Assessment Coordinator for our HSC program. Today, we want to share with you some improvements we have made in ACC's remote testing process. It's hard to believe it's been a year since we were all faced with developing processes that would move assessment into a virtual world. I'm sure your program, like ours, is amazed with how much we have changed and continue to change, and things we have accomplished that we never dreamed we could do. Here is a short overview of how ACC has structured their CASA testing on a Zoom platform. When students join Zoom, they are placed in a waiting room, and we have customized a welcome message for them. The host then brings the student to the main room one at a time, vets their technology, checks audio and video, and then moves them to a breakout room with the proctor. The proctor will then check their ID, review test agreement, start the students on the test, and finally proctor the students. We also have added additional breakout rooms for tech support, language support, and registration. Our assessment team is continually trying to improve our processes and wanted to share some ways we think have led us to be successful with remote testing. One way we did this was by creating more organization in Zoom. This organization helped us improve the flow of students throughout our process. The first thing we address is what the role of the host should be. We quickly realized the primary responsibility of the host was to track and move students throughout the virtual platform, and the host really needed to stay in the main room. So with that in mind, we created a co-host role, which helped with technology, language support, and this person was able to move between breakout rooms to help proctors when needed. As I mentioned earlier, all students join Zoom and are placed in a waiting room. We found it was easier to deal with one student at a time in the main room. The co-host would send messages to students in the waiting room saying, "We'll be with you in a minute." And we also had a message that said, "Welcome to your HSE testing and orientation session," so they knew that they were in the right place. One of the biggest ways we improved the flow of students was by creating and renaming specific breakout rooms. We usually have 5 proctors in each test session, and they could be assigned 5 students to proctor. So before the breakout rooms are open, the host renames and assigns breakout rooms. For example, if Linda was in a proctor, the host would rename 5 breakout rooms to like Linda 1, Linda 2, Linda 3, etc. Linda would then be responsible for setting up and proctoring students moved to these breakout rooms by the host. So renaming and assigning breakout rooms helped everyone involved keep track where students were. At ACC, we are always looking for ways to minimize the barriers to testing and enrolling our students. And one way we did this was by combining assessment with registration. We created additional breakout rooms for our registration staff. And just like our proctors, we renamed and assigned staff to these breakout rooms. So now when a student completes a CASAS test, the host would move them to a registration breakout room, and there they are given the opportunity to meet with an instructor or an advisor to register for a class. The registration staff also has access to a shared Google testing roster. So when a student finishes testing, a proctor can then move their current score on the testing roster, and the registration staff can view the scores and register as student in an appropriate level class. To date, we have administered around 2,000 CASA baseline tests and around 418 progress tests. We have been able to do this by creating schedules, setting appointment times, and allowing for attrition. When we started out, we only had 28 appointment slots per session, but we began to improve and learn to allow for attrition, and now we have 40 testing appointment slots per session. Our sessions are usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays, mornings, afternoons, and evenings, and Saturday morning. The morning sessions are around 8:30 to 2, and the evening sessions are usually like 3:30 to 8. Within these sessions, we stagger appointment times so we can control the flow of students in the waiting room and main room. For example, in the morning session, we might have 13 or 14 students at an 8:30 appointment time, 13 or 14 students at a 9:30 appointment time, and the same for 10:30. In general, we usually administer between 15 and 25 baseline tests per sessions. Some of our students don't show up for their scheduled appointment time. Some students don't have the technology, and we have to work with them to reschedule or find the correct technology. So where we have 40 appointment slots, we're really testing around 20 to 25. And now Sophie will review some of our resources for our proctors and staff.
Communicating effectively is essential to remote testing. We have created a few items that make this process a bit easier. We have designed an email to communicate to students their testing date and time, their Zoom link, and tech requirements. Here you can see that we outline the specific tech requirements we have for our students and what we recommend for remote testing. We work with our data team to send these emails, and we include a welcome video, step-by-step instructions to set up an iPad and a Chromebook. And we do state that we highly recommend a computer with Windows 10. We also give recommendations to help students join the session successfully, such as downloading the Zoom app prior to joining the session, having audio and video capabilities, having their photo ID, and a quiet place where they can take their test. At the bottom of this email, we give the students the Zoom link that they need for the session. We also created a resource page that provides access to proctors to get information about CASAS guidelines, testing scripts, and scheduling. In my role as a coordinator, I also create testing rosters for the session that are located on this resource page and shared with staff. So here you can see we have our testing scripts for both baseline and progress testing. We link eTests on this page as well so that our proctors have easy access to it. There is a form that we use to track proctor hours. We have all our different trainings available for proctors to review, as well as step-by-step instructions to help our students set up a device if they come to the session without it set up already. We also have all the videos that we created for our students and staff. And then we share this resource page with our registration staff, and they have their own resources here as well. And on this tab, this is our baseline testing session schedule page. And so you can see we have the session date and time, the Zoom link for each session, who's hosting and co-host, and then all the different proctors to be able to sign up and pick what session they want to work. We also have our reg team sign up here as well, so everyone's on the same page about who is joining the session. This is particularly important for the host when they're creating those breakout rooms, so they know who to expect when they are working with students and see someone that, you know, like Margie Weaver, who can come in, know that they're staff and not the student. And then on this tab is the shared testing roster. And as you can see, we list the student's name, last name, first name, their student ID number. This is all dummy information for PII reasons. Their appointment time, if we have them flags for different programs. And as you can see, we have our 3:30 appointments, our 4:30, and then our 5:30s. We mark if they don't show up, what kind of device the student has, and what proctor room they're in. One of the downsides of testing in Zoom is that it's impossible to communicate with your team when they are in breakout rooms. We have found starting a group chat in Google Hangouts works really well for communicating with staff during the session. In order to successfully progress test, we've applied a remote baseline testing process to progress testing. We hold these progress testing sessions during class time and have concurrent classes come on the same day and use the same Zoom link. We stagger appointment times based on class time, and we have created similar testing rosters for progress testing. The reason we created a similar process for progress testing was to streamline this whole process and not create too many barriers for our proctors.
Thank you, Sophie. Sophie does a great job creating these schedules and keeping us organized. I hope you have found this information useful, and I think it can be applicable to both small and large programs. I just want to end with saying at ACC, we are always trying new processes while at the same time reacting to fast changes that occur in the adult education world. And it gets hard, as you know. Some new ideas or processes work great and others not so great. And we learn from our failures. And just like everyone else, we just keep trying and moving forward to find better ways to serve our students. And now I believe we have time for any questions.
Yes, thank you so much for that really informative presentation. And I just want to say it's amazing that you've been able to test 2,000 students with baseline, or what many understand to be pre-tests, and 418, I guess you're just getting going with your progress tests, all remotely. Incredible.
it's a lot of, I have a really good staff that keeps me organized, and having those systems in place, I think has helped us. And it's a slow process to get there. You know, we worked hard on that.
Yeah, and I mean, the innovations you've put in place are amazing. I think that, you know, to have everything in one Zoom session really simplifies the logistics. And, you know, you use Zoom to the max. You've got the waiting room for the main room, these special rooms for support of tech support or language support. And just to be clear, when you set up your proctor rooms, those are 5 more rooms, up to 5. Each proctor can have up to 5. There was a question about that.
Yeah.
And then this latest innovation of adding on the registration right into the same Zoom room.
And that really helped a lot. You know, when we first started with ACC, we were just figuring out how to remote test. You know, you have to send, and we have a large program, so it's hard to get all this information to ultimately enroll about over 4,000 students. So we thought, well, if we're going to give them an email and information, once you, as we all know, once you have that student, it's hard to get them to come back. So let's just kind of work on combining. And that's been really not one of the most difficult things we've had to do, is to combine the registration with that as well. On the front end, being prepared to have them register for classes and things, but it's worked out good for our program.
I have a particular question in terms of planning this. How many proctors would you generally schedule if, let's say, you had a fully booked session, like 3-hour session with 40 slots, I think you said filled up to 13 an hour? How many proctors would you need for that?
For our baseline, we try to get up to 5, 4 to 5. We could do 4 to 5. So we put in slots for 5 people, like everyone. You know, we have to sometimes have a hard time staffing everything. Minimal 4 with, you know, we have our host and co-host that also can fill in. But for the most part, we'll staff 5. But every session has its own personality. You know, we book for 40. Some people, sometimes only we test 15. Sometimes we test 25. I don't think we've ever reached capacity, you know, or gone over it. Attrition is a big part if you work with HSE students. So we had a pretty good number working with data, kind of tracking that. So we were comfortable with having 40 appointment slots, knowing that we would probably test no more than 25.
And I suppose your proctors who are experienced are comfortable with up to 5, but maybe your novice proctors would prefer to just have a one or 2 or 3 to begin with, right?
Yeah, and that's really how we do it. And most of the time, we probably aren't doing one proctor for 5 students. When they start coming in at those different appointment times, yes, it's really, you need to have everyone there, because you're setting up a student, then going to set up another student, and then going back. And the way it staggers in, if you have 5, if you might have one student at 3:30. And if we have, you might get another student at 3:30, depending on how you are in the order. But then you might not get another one to the end of the 4:30 appointment, because you're always, you know, assigning different proctors. And we do have, of course, you know, proctors with more experience. And if we have a tech issue, or if it's an iPad, something that has to be set up or something different, we have our stronger ones, but we try to train everyone. I'm training right now. I just hired 8 different proctors, and they're shadowing the proctors. So we require them on our end to shadow like twice to make sure that they're comfortable with it. And then we put them into their own room. Yeah.
So does the host have a way of keeping track of where they've sent the students?
Yeah, one way is, I know Sophie, and I have those templates that, you know, you can share as well. Sophie, or whoever the host is, will mark as they come to the main room. They know that they have the capability to test. You know, they have Wi-Fi, they have a Windows 10 device or an iPad. When they send them to a breakout room, on that shared roster, they'll write like Gene 1, so that they know, because we can't remember all that anyway. So we will put that on Gene 1. Also, in Zoom now, when you're in the breakout rooms, you can see where everyone is. So when you open breakout rooms, you can see. I like having it quickly on the one reference page, you know, so I don't have to go through Zoom if you're busy, because there's a lot of traffic. My supervisor came in and says, you are like air traffic controllers here. You know, that's really what the host is, you know, moving people around. So it was nice to have it on that one page so we could see where everyone was. But there's two areas to see that in Zoom itself and on our shared our testing roster.
And does what does the host or the co-host, whoever's assigning the student, what do they tell the student when they're sending them to the breakout room? Are there certain, like what if the proctor's with another student? They might wind up alone, right?
And that's one thing that's good that you can see on Zoom, you can see exactly where the proctor is within their 5 rooms. So you can see if they're on 2, plus we have eTest open. So we kind of know, oh, they've started the test, they're moving in. You know, we just kind of look at all of those. As you get experience, you learn these little things. But we usually say, you know, first of all, you're going to be asked to join a breakout room. So if they're familiar and they join it, and that if we know that the proctor is with another student, we will say, the proctor is with another student, please wait there, she'll be with you or he'll be with you shortly. And then the co-host, at that point, we're always double checking to make sure everyone's served, and it's kind of making sure, okay, that person moved there, they're getting served as well. So it's a busy job in the host and co-host main room, but yes.
Yeah, Jean, you want to add something? Yeah, please.
I did. I just wanted to add that when we mentioned that we open up a Google chat so that everybody that's in the session, all the proctors that are working the session and the host can talk, we will generally in that Google chat also send a quick message, you know, hey, you've got a student in room 2, please join as soon as you can. So we keep that communication as well.
So that's how you do the inter-staff communication and keep everybody on the same page. And if anything comes up, oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah. The Google chat really helped us a lot because that was one thing with Zoom. Unless you're in the breakout room, you can't chat. You're broadcasting to everyone, and that's just, you know, gets disruptive. So opening up a Google chat and chatting and having one of the duties of the host and how we train them is they need to open up a Google chat with everyone involved. And so we can see a good way if there's a tech issue that comes up. Oh, can the co-host come to, you know, Jean room 3? George is having a problem, you know, so that's how we chat a lot.
That makes sense. Great. I mean, do you have a staff assigned to the tech room or the language support room, or you just the co-host does it, or it depends?
It depends. You know, like everyone, we are always looking for help. And in the summer, I think we have more help because we use a lot of our instructors. So during our main enrollment, we have a big enrollment for fall. We will staff for technology and language support. We also have some HSE classes in Spanish. So if I know we're progress testing an HSE class in Spanish or something, I will definitely have language support. We do have language support as much as we can. Sometimes we don't, you know, if we don't have the staff. The technology, it's amazing how in the beginning, we always made sure we had technology, and that was always a lot of Sophie, who's not here. She's learning to be a CASA certified trainers. So, but as we got better, you know, we can handle our own technologies problems. You know, you do it so much, you run into the same things and you're like, let's try this. And the co-host will go in. But if we can, if there's someone available, we try to, yeah.
Excellent. All right, well, I think our time is up, but for this, but if any of our participants out there have questions for Karen or Jean, please put them in the Q&A. And now that they're not answering live questions, they can go in and answer your questions. So thank you so much for all this amazing insight into how to do this well. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Linda. I mean, we enjoy sharing what we're doing. And I mean, not everything worked out great the first time is what I was saying, in the presentation, but we just keep going, and it's working good. We're progress testing now, so working on that as well.
Great. Jean, any final thoughts?
No, but we will definitely check the Q&A and answer the questions there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So now I want to introduce Dawn Montgomery from CASAS. She's our online implementation specialist, and she's going to give you an eTests update on station registration.
Thank you, Linda. This month's technology update is about the CASAS eTests testing station registration. Now, you might have noticed something missing and wondered, where did it go? Well, we've eliminated the register this computer button to make it easier for the test takers with one choice, one step. Next slide. So how is this different? Remote test takers click Take a Test, and on-site test takers click Take a Test. It's that simple. It's just as simple as that. Just click Take a Test. Now, next slide, after remote test takers click Take a Test, they enter the station registration code provided by their proctor and then click Register. The test taker enters their ID and continues with the testing process. Next, for in-person testing, after on-site test takers click Take a Test, they also continue with the testing process after entering their ID. Next, after a certified eTests coordinator or proctor clicks Take a Test to register a computer for on-site testing, they enter their credentials to log in and then continue with the registration process. So the function of the Take a Test button now serves multiple purposes with a simplified process for everyone. And that's it for this month's update on CASAS technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. And now I'd like to ask Janie Guez from CASAS to give us an overview of the CASAS Workforce Skills Certification System, known as WSCS.
Thank you, Linda. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm just going to speak briefly about a tool that CASAS has developed that many people don't know about, but it's a real gem, and it's really kind of come into its own time during this period. It's the Workforce Skills Certification System, and the goal is to help transition learners into the workforce. And the tool helps students demonstrate that they have the work readiness skills identified so they can get and keep their jobs. Next slide. So why WSCS? Why now? Well, in this post-COVID, which we're finally getting into, there's going to be a lot of job seekers re-entering the workforce, and they need support to get their jobs. There's also a huge emphasis on integrated education and training and IELCE programs in our adult ed, where you are preparing the learners again for employment. And this tool is also something that you can use to partner with your workforce development partners. And it's also something that a great tool to engage with your local businesses. So what is the WSCS? Next slide. The WSCS assesses the foundation skills, which are the academic, and these are the CASAS reading and math skills, and it also assesses soft skills or the behavioral skills. And I'm going to just spend a few seconds or a few minutes on what are the soft skills, and then how do you assess them, because they are assessed very differently than the traditional reading and math and listening skills. So the next slide, please. The soft skills that we're measuring in the WSCS system are personal qualities and customer care. And within the personal qualities area, we're looking at students demonstrating integrity, responsibility, self-esteem, self-management, and sociability skills. And under customer care, which is internal and external customers, we're looking at customer relations, decision-making, and commitment to quality. So how do you measure these? How do you assess these? Well, we are working with another company called AlignMark that has developed a way to assess soft skills that is used widely within business and industry. And they repurposed their knowledge and their assessment for adult education programs. And it's a video-based assessment, so it's simulations. And there are a variety of different on-the-job situations that students or employees would encounter. For example, I'm going to show you just a short video of cell phone usage and working with a coworker. So the learner watches multiple short job scenario video clips, multiple ones, and in each video clip, they need to decide what is the best course of action and what is the worst course of action based on what they've just watched. And then that will identify what soft skills they have. So if you could go to the next slide, and I'm going to show you a short demo of what one of the clips, what the assessment looks like. So Karen?
In this situation, Chris and Ted work in a retail shop. Right now, it's very slow and there are no customers in their work area. As you watch this situation, bear in mind that last week the store manager saw Ted using his cell phone and told him he should not use it while at work unless Ted was on break. The other employee you will see is Chris. This is only Chris's second day on the job. So at the beginning of each video, I'll give you background on what you are about to watch. After that, the action begins.
Hey Ted, is it always this slow on Thursdays?
Not usually. I'm sure it'll pick up.
Hey man, what's up? Yeah, last night was hysterical. Can you believe that guy was saying those things? Oh, he was cracking me up.
Okay, now you've seen the problem. Next, you'll see 4 possible ways to handle this problem. As you watch, keep in mind that you're being asked to select what you think would be the best way of handling the problem and what you think would be the worst way. Now, let's see the 4 actions that you have to choose from. Tell him the manager said not to use cell phones except when on break.
Hey Chris, last week the manager told me I could only use my phone when I was on break.
B. Tell him that if the manager sees him using his cell phone, he will get in trouble.
Hey Chris, if the manager sees you on your phone, you're going to get in trouble.
C. Say nothing since the manager is not around and it is slow. D. Tell him to hang up and that cell phones can only be used when on break.
Hey Chris, you need to hang up. We can only use our phones when we're on break.
Okay, find the spot for answering the practice question. You should now give your answers regarding your best and worst course of action before the counter reaches 0.
Okay, can we go back to the slides now? Thank you. After a student answers the same question after watching multiple videos, then we're able to determine what soft skills they have demonstrated. And this is reported out on a workforce skills profile that is generated out of TOPS Pro. And the top part of this profile shows what their reading skills and their math skills are based on their CASAS testing. And then the bottom half of this profile shows what soft skills. And this can be generated out of TOPS, and then a student can take it with them when they're applying for a job, and the employer can see what a third-party independent, nationally validated testing systems say what the person's skills and abilities are. So this is, if you can go to the next slide, please. The benefit of having a workforce skills profile tells the student what their strengths are, and it certifies what their work readiness skills are. And then the benefit for the employer is that it documents what the job candidates' workforce readiness skills are. So it's a win-win for both. And this is something that we know will help you with your IET, IELCE programs, help you with your workforce partners. So the next slide, please. If you have any questions or interest, please send an email to wscs@casas.org. And there's lots of information on the website as well on the front page. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jane. So now we're going to go into back to the topic of remote testing, give you a little update. And actually, before we get into it, I just want to mention one thing you might have seen on the Austin Community College resources page, that there were some resources for doing phone testing. And that's because Austin Community College is part of our remote testing pilot project for using phones. And so that's something that they are trying out. And just in case you were wondering why you might have seen Android and iPhone instructions there, that's because of that. It's not something that we're still working through, I should say, the feasibility of it. And it is looking promising, but until we get a little bit more data, we're not able to make some decisions about taking it out more widely to all of you. So just to let you know that that's why you might have seen those, that's why you did see those phone resources and something very exciting in the works. Also, I don't know if it's come in through the chat or the Q&A, but the Austin Community College folks have agreed to share their resources that the without the personal student information. And so that if it hasn't already been posted in the chat, that's something we can definitely post there so you can see more clearly without going through the whole video what they've done. And also when our webinar is posted on the website, we also do pull out the Austin Community College piece of it so that you can, if you're interested in just revisiting that, you can certainly do that and really get into and see all the amazing innovations that they've come up with. This is just to remind you of some of the basics of CASAS remote testing, that we have our 4 approaches. 2 of them are with multiple test takers. All the others can be used one-on-one. And the first one and the last one only one-on-one. We have detailed step-by-step instructions. If you're just now venturing into remote testing, that's what you should definitely become very familiar with. And these guidelines documents take you step by step through them. We've used Zoom as an example, but you can use other platforms. And also in those guidelines, we have all the technical requirements for both proctors and test takers. And also on our website, there is a page called Remote Testing that has everything that you need in one place. As far as where we're headed with remote testing, we are looking at some innovations. We're working on some projects now. As I mentioned, we have a remote testing pilot project where we have some agencies around the country who are testing more than the current maximum of 5 students at a time. Some of them do have some very experienced proctors and they feel that they could do more than 5. So we're having them try that out and see if there are any challenges with that, or just let us see if that's something we could possibly make available. And the second one, as I mentioned, is the phones. So we're collecting more data, and as soon as we have enough, we will let you know if that's something you also could do in your programs. As we all know, our students have phones and they may not have a Windows 10 computer of some kind or a Chromebook that has the proper kiosk mode, et cetera. So those device issues can be challenging we know, for you to do the remote testing. So we're looking for ways to make it possible for you to test more students. Also, we've been telling you, we've been working on this video conferencing embedded in eTests, and this is something we're pretty close to trying out in pilot. Right now, we're still doing some more final phase of our internal testing, and soon we'll be rolling it out into our pilot projects to try it out. And if all goes well, then again, we'll be releasing it out for you all to be able to use as well. And finally, in terms of a third-party proctoring service option, this is something we have explored, but so far, there hasn't been the level of demand for that we would need in order to pursue it. So if you are interested, please send an email to remotetesting@casas.org. Let us know how many students, if this were possible, you might be interested in testing in this way. That is not having your own proctors do the testing, but paying. And the thing about it is that it is more expensive because you're paying for the CASAS test, the TEU or the WTU, as well as the additional fee for the proctor to perform that service. But please let us know if that's something you're interested in, and if we get enough demand, we'll look into it. Just some basic reminders about remote testing, the basics, and we keep getting inquiries, so we have to keep repeating that it's only through eTests that you can do remote testing, not paper testing, not holding up a booklet in Zoom, no. So only through eTests. You may not copy, scan, or reproduce in any way our paper tests and send them out. And also we ask you not to record the testing session with even if you're doing it in Zoom, because there are privacy concerns that we are not equipped to handle with the way that we've set it up so far. So also with some of the new features of Zoom, like these virtual backgrounds and filtering, that's something you should not use, and make sure the students that you're testing don't use them, because that will impair your ability to see their backgrounds, their actual backgrounds in the room. And so in general, like you've seen with Austin Community College, please be creative, but do stay within the guidelines. All right, now we're going to show you a couple of these bitables. One of them is on the reading level indicator we call the RLI, and another one is on our National External Diploma Program, the NEDP. And now for some CASAS news. Our biggest news is we have our virtual CASAS Summer Institute coming up in June. And we really hope you can attend with the advantage of being able to come without all the travel expenses and hotel. You can attend online. We're doing it over a 2-week period where we have the first sessions on June 17th and 18th, and then subsequently the following week on the 22nd and 23rd. Registration is open, and we have more than 100 training sessions and panels and workshops planned. So in the first week, it's going to be trainings, CASAS implementation trainings, TOPS Pro Enterprise and CASAS eTests trainings, and workforce skills certification trainings. And in the second week will be all the panels and workshops on workforce and adult ed initiatives, enhancing student outcomes, citizenship and EL civics, using data effectively, secondary credentialing, including we'll have a strand on the NEDP that you just heard about, as well as presentations. We always get folks from GED and HiSET to come and present, and even more on transitioning learners to post-secondary and the workplace. So just before I go from there, please do consider coming this year. It's a great opportunity to learn more about various aspects, to hear from your from practitioners doing innovative things around the country in adult ed. We do have these very popular sessions on TE basics. This is what we call a live online training where we have a trainer and it's a Zoom session. The April one is full, but the May 21st one is posted and you can register on the website for it. So if you're interested in either a refresher or if you're fairly new to CASAS and you'd like to attend one of these sessions, please take advantage of that. It's from 10:30 to 12 Pacific, and you can adjust accordingly for your time zones. We also have implementation trainings, that is getting started with CASAS, that are not, you can do those online, self-paced with the Moodle courses, but we also have the option of live facilitated versions of these implementation trainings. We have the next one on April 20th. That's modules 1 and 4. That's the one, module 1 is the overview or the basics. And then module 4 is about interpreting reports and understanding how to apply that to instruction. Then we have others in May coming up. There's one that's modules 1 and 2, which is the basics as well as focusing on eTests, and modules 1 and 3, April 27th, which focuses on paper testing. So please take advantage of these. And when you do complete them, just like you would on the self-paced online Moodle courses, you do get a certificate of completion. We also offer office hours. This is something that's fairly new in the last few months. It's on Fridays at 11 Pacific and 2 Eastern. If you go to the What's New portion that's on the right side of our website, you'll see where to click to register. There are specific dates for these. And for this, you can come with any question you like. We always have enough CASAS staff there to answer a variety of questions. So please consider coming if there's something you'd like to ask about. Of course, you can always ask us in other ways, but whatever questions you have, we'll make sure that we have someone there to answer them. Please join us next month on May 19th, same time, for our monthly, what's become a tradition now, this monthly news and updates webinars. We always have another guest speaker from a program where they're doing something innovative, and hope you can join us. Please bookmark that next Wednesday, May 19th. And you can register after the webinar. That link will be up. And if you have questions on in any of these areas, these are the specific emails to reach about general information, orders, tech support, training, eTests getting started, or remote testing. So I don't know if there are any other questions. I see we do have some that are open. So please, we have our CASAS staff on hand to answer your questions now. While they're doing that, I'll just take a minute to go to the CASAS website and just show you a couple of the things that are new there. So this is the home page. If you can see on the right, we have under what's new, we always have remote testing writ large. And that, if you click on it, will take you to all the resources for remote testing. And we do have something new there. We have a new flyer that tells all about the remote testing resources in one place. So this is something that if you want to share with folks in your program, it's just a handy reference sheet that has all of those resources together. The guidance, the technical assistance email, the videos that we have, the help documents, and the FAQs. And they're also on that page. Here on the right side, you can see where the office hours link is, the live facilitated training registration. For California, we have the EL Civics Conference field testing. If you're interested in doing that, we talked about earlier how to get started with CASAS, the news and updates to register. And if you'd like other information about CASAS, it's all here. So our videos are featured here in the middle. If you want to get to the CASAS catalog, it's right here. Summer Institute registration here, training, and NEDP, which we talked about. And here's where we mentioned, we gave that presentation about WSCS. Here's where you would go on our website to learn more about it. So that brings us to the top of the hour. We will formally end the session as far as the presentation goes. But if you have additional questions, please feel free to keep asking them. And hopefully you found this interesting. And thank you so much for taking time today to join us.